we had some missiles flying over the weekend, but nothing dramatic yet. We're talking about oil prices and what's happening in Iran here. Charlie's going to talk about some of the financials and banks here after I kind of touch a little bit on what's going on in the energy world today. And oil prices are still up here. WTI still hanging up around $112 a barrel. What is interesting is that looking out at the strip 12 months from now, we're still hanging in around $72, $73 a barrel. So the market still believes at some point there will be some resolution, some resumption of the shipment of crude through the Strait of Hormuz, and that it still prices in that 12 months from now we're going to be at $72, $75 a barrel, which has been the case all along. It's the front end of the curve or the spot price that continues to be quite volatile on whatever the latest headlines or fears are in Iran. And we're sitting here looking at a looming deadline supposedly tonight as to if there's no deal. The latest is if there's no deal, Trump is threatened to go in and start bombing bridges and power plants, which apparently he already struck their largest bridge here in the last 24 hours. At the same time, there are headlines that there may be a 45-day ceasefire or truce here to sort of iron things out. We'll see what happens, but oil is sort of reflecting near term, at least, that there's going to continue to be conflict, that there's no quick reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which clearly is the case today. The fear is that this is not going to be an easy solution. And we've talked all along about the fact that this is sort of it is a religious war for Iran and for the leaders there that are calling the shot still. There's been no regime change. And the leadership, whoever it is, seems to be pretty entrenched and talking the talk and continuing to fire missiles. And doesn't seem to be any de-escalation in what Iran is able to sort of do in targeting Israel, continuing to target their neighbors, and continuing to have some missiles or drones that they're using to fight back. And so we'll see sort of how this plays out. But certainly the longer it goes without any regime change, with Iran continuing to fire missiles and fight back, the more uncertainty there is as to what is the final outcome or solution here. And particularly with no regime change, which means that they're talking about some sort of, backdoor talks with Pakistan being an intermediary, trying to come to some sort of agreement. But we don't know who exactly that's with. They claim that maybe it's moderates, but I don't know if moderates truly exist in this, the regime that's been in power here and seems to be still calling the shots in a regime that all along their objective has always been, for more than 20 years, to have a nuclear weapon and to basically create chaos in the Middle East. So, this is still a can of worms that doesn't seem to have any lid that can be put on it anytime soon. And in the meantime, oil prices are going to hang up here. Now, the stocks themselves, if we look at the energy stocks, they seem to reflect a little bit of exhaustion in the sense that, they aren't running up on this oil price being $112 a barrel. And if I look down, they're all off, pretty much all the E&Ps and certainly the integrateds are off their highs over the past several weeks. So the market seems to be anticipating that maybe oil prices have peaked for the moment and continue to price in or value these stocks on what is the longer term 12-month strip. So we'll see how that plays out. But in the meantime, all these companies are minting cash on what they're receiving for the price of oil today. And, longer term, or at least near term, part of the issue is really, as we talked about last week on the refining capacity, we've seen product prices, gasoline and diesel, run up more than what have crude oil prices, just given some of the refinery outages and damages in the Middle East. The other side of the equation is natural gas. That gas, and we talked about this last week, in the U.S., natural gas prices are sort of reflecting what are the dynamics here in the U.S. and North America, apart from what's happening in the Middle East and the rest of the world. And that natural gas in near-term spots at around $2.85, which is what you would expect here in the shoulder period without a lot of heating or cooling load demand, with storage levels in good shape coming out of the winter and looking ahead toward the summer.